Here we are, day 272 of COVID deal, whatever. We still cannot get into Unity of Phoenix, so we're here in Schroederville.
And I'm socially distanced.
He is, John is in the back. Good. And we are here this evening, this afternoon, to talk about Edgar Cayce on aliens. Are we alone? Very interesting topic, because what we have in our thought process, especially those of us with snow on the roof, is that if we recall back from the 50s and 60s, we had our alien movies. What was the first thing that we did? We always called out the army to kill it, right? Well, that's kind of human nature because we are acting out of fear. And this particular eco-series is going to talk about there's really no need for fear. Now, human nature is of such that we tend to compare and contrast. If we see or perceive something different than our established norms, then we start to evaluate it. Depending on our perception is of that which we are taking in, we either go to fear or flight mode, okay? And so aliens is something that can actually scare people simply because it's in the public consciousness and has been for a good, 60 years or so. So let's see what the man himself actually did talk about with respect to aliens and if we are in fact alone. This presentation is my opinion. I researched the Edgar Cayce readings and discerned what he was saying, and I'm here to present it to you. There are a couple of very good readings that are dedicated to this, which I will point out later. But what I want you to do is if you have any questions about this, you can always contact us or research it yourself. Go in there and see what it means to you. And from there, you will form the basis of your educated opinion. There's two primary readings that I relied on in developing this presentation. The first one is 5755, I believe, and it was the Edgar Cayce reading given in June of 1941 at the 10th Annual Congress in Virginia Beach. That is a big hootenanny where all the ARE peeps show up every June, and because Cayce was still with us, he was able to give us a presentation on that. The second reading that I drew upon was 5749-14, and this reading is actually considered to be part of the Jesus readings, but these are the questions that Thomas Segru put forth to Cayce while he was developing his Cayce's biography of There Is a River. Consequently, the philosophy chapter has a lot to do with this, and if you haven't read There Is a River's philosophy chapter, you should do so, and it's very, very enlightening because it gives you an encapsulated view of what Cayce was thinking about. With respect to aliens, the core principle that we need to look at comes from the 575610 reading. Hence, the proper approach, the proper concept, or proper conception of questions would be, how did the influence known as spirit move upon the various matters that came into existence? And how did the influence manifest itself upon the beings that separated into the varied kingdoms that inhabit, such as the earth? A couple of points here, starting at the bottom. Varied kingdoms such as the earth. That tells us that there are other realms of existence out there. This will make perfect sense if you subscribe to the belief that in the beginning God created an infinite number of souls. Not all souls went to what we consider the earth plane or this solar system. They went elsewhere. Now, going up here, how did the influence known as spirit move upon the various matters that came into existence? As we'll see, we came into existence by pushing ourselves into matter. What happened elsewhere? Cayce gives us a pretty good idea of what happened here, and though he does not describe in very specific terms of the other worlds, other than that they in fact do exist, we can assume that perhaps they too took on a form of somewhat similar nature than we do, and they pressed themselves into matter, because they too are in a material existence. 57:55-2, this is the Congress reading. Then, in considering those conditions, those experiences as may be a part of the soul's awareness, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. That is the premise. What this is telling us, and this should alleviate any fears, is that if there are in fact otherworldly beings, and again the readings do tell us that there are, as you shall see, what is there to fear? They too are souls like us. They too are on a mission to return to where they came from, which was God, hence attaining a condition of oneness. So everything that is, ever was, became from God and is with God. Fear of the unknown, again, in our material world is what drives certain actions. God, the Father, then, is the Creator, the beginning and the end. In Him is the understanding by and through those influences that have taken form in universes to meet the needs of each soul, that we may find our way to Him. Here's the mission that everybody is on. Other souls, other than those who inhabit the earth plane, have come into existence. In matter, somehow, they have taken form. And what is their environment? Their environment is very similar to ours with respect to being provided everything that we need to return back to oneness with God, to find our way back to Him. They too have a different viewpoints, and they too are attaining their level of oneness with Him by living in their own worlds. Very similar, but yet strikingly different. This is the Milky Way. You are here. And as you can see, there is a lot of space out there. We are just simply a speck of dust, in essence, when you look at everything. But we tend to think in our minds that the whole world, or the whole universe, revolves around the third rock from the sun here, okay? But just remember how minute we are in the big scope of things, and this is simply our galaxy. There are other galaxies, other universes out there. Perhaps this is why, with the infinite number of souls that are out there, that the universe continues to expand. The earth is that speck, that part of creation where souls projected themselves into matter, and thus brought that conscious awareness of themselves, entertaining the ability of creating without those forces of the Spirit of truth. Hence, that which has been indicated, that serpent, that power manifested by entities that, created as the cooperative influence, through will, separated themselves. As this came about, it was necessary for their own awareness in the spheres of activity. Thus, realms of systems came into being, as vast as the power of thought in attempting to understand infinity, or to comprehend that there is no time or space. Yet, time and space, in patience, you may comprehend. Boy, that's a mouthful. But this is what he talks about. Well, let's break this down a little bit. Brought into conscious awareness of themselves, entertaining the ability of creating without those forces of the Spirit of truth. This is us becoming part of the earth by pushing ourselves into matter that we saw down here. We did it in and of ourselves. We did it by ourselves. We did not ask permission. We had the ability to do it, therefore we did it. Consequently, this is how we became entangled in this system. Now, to further drive that, we see the words, the serpent. Now, in other Cayce readings, he refers to the apple from the Garden of Eve in Genesis as being the temptation of sex. And the serpent is being the fulfillment of that desire. Consequently, when he states that serpent is that power manifested, that entities that created as the cooperative influence. In other words, they allowed their sex drive, basically, to rule this earth. And if you can look around today, sex is still a big, big business. A lot of people use it as a recreational activity. People are measured in social circles simply by various measurements, so to speak. It's here with us. And this is what we were allowing to happen, and this is how we came down in here. And the Lord saw that this was what was happening and there needed to be a way out. Consequently, the first thing we did is created the Adamic bodies. The Adamic bodies are our cells that we have here. Okay? And the other thing is that it puts in here are other spheres of activities. There's other earth planes here. And as you will see, what happens from here is where we go to the lessons. The earth is basically a laboratory where we go in and try to apply the lessons that we've learned given various circumstances. Okay? Consequently, when we chose to separate, we are being given a lifeline because there is in fact a way out of here. Right? There was created systems that enabled us to escape. This is very hopeful. Secondarily, if it happened to us here on this earth, can we assume that there are other levels of entanglement elsewhere in the universe? That they have their spheres of activity? The one that comes to mind is in the Search for God readings when the entity identified as Halaliel came in and spoke to the group through Cayce. And this was, a new visitor, a new voice, so to speak. And when inquired as to who this person was, Halaliel was identified as a peer of Jesus and one who would make the way difficult. Of course, this had a lot to do with the people having trouble with understanding the Cayce vernacular, vocabulary, and way of speaking, and they were looking for Easy Street. There was an Easy Street, but it came at a price. So perhaps, as Jesus is the king of our earthly plane, Halaliel occupies a similar seat elsewhere in the universe. Just something to think about. This is our playground. This is our solar system. You are here, 3 rocks from the sun. Okay? These are not by accident that they're here. These are purposeful objects in the sky. Cayce was asked specifically, are any of the planets other than the Earth inhabited by human beings or animal life of any kind? Answer, no. So, there are no green men on Mars. All those who are looking for little green creatures running around on Mars with the Mars rover are going to be sadly disappointed. There are none. Now, it asks specifically about human beings or animal life. I believe that science will tell us that there is proof of bacterial type of life elsewhere, but they have not formed into any manifested being such as an animal or a human being. So with respect to our solar system, there are no humans anywhere other than Earth. Humans are the physical form that our souls are inhabiting at the moment. Earth in this solar system merely represents 3 dimensions. Then, how many dimensions are in this solar system? 8. What position does the Earth occupy? 3rd. The other planets serve as other dimensions for our souls to learn from. Cayce said that when we die, our souls go elsewhere for further education. Again, the Earth is basically a laboratory where we come in and apply the lessons. We've got to learn to control ourselves, control our free will. But Cayce did say that there are 8 dimensions in this solar system. Okay? Just this solar system. For as a soul leaves those influences in which it has developed or builded in the Earth's experience, it, through its changes, comes into those environments known as the planets about the Earth, or in the solar influence. The key word here is through its changes. The soul is actually changing as it is attached to our physical body, and we make conscious choices as we live life and we do the things that we are trying to do. We are writing it on our soul. And at the end of the day, at the end of the life, the soul is going to have to answer for everything that we in fact have done. Now, based on how well or how poor we have done, we're going to go to various planets. If anyone has ever read a life reading that Cayce has given, he always talks about the astrological influences up front. The reason for this is because it shows us where our impetus is, where our soul has been, what it has taken from those various planets, so that we can learn and then apply here on our laboratory of Earth. Okay, so once we live here, leave our physical bodies, we're going to go space trucking, as Deep Purple may have said. All right? And we're going to go and visit the other planets as necessary to learn, to reinforce, and to gain new knowledge that we can apply. Hence, this is why Cayce also said that it's extremely difficult for anybody to get through the entire solar system in less than 30 lifetimes, because there's that much to learn. And we're going in and just step by step, precept by precept, here a little, there a little, that we're learning and that we're building on. And eventually we're going to work our way up. Okay? Consider this, we are building the pyramid, the soul pyramids. It took forever to build them, so to speak. Thomas Segru asked the question, must the solar cycle be finished on Earth, or can it be completed on another planet? Or does each planet have a cycle of its own which must be finished? Answer, if it is begun on the Earth, it must be finished on the Earth. The solar system of which the Earth is a part is only a portion of the whole. For, as indicated in the number of planets about the Earth, they are of one and the same, and they are relative one to another. It is the cycle of the whole system that is finished. See? Consequently, in order for us to fully complete the lessons learned here, we have got to go through everything that each of these planets have got for us to learn. Now, the Cayce readings do state that not everybody came to the Earth. Some souls went to the other planets first, before they came to the Earth. Consequently, when he's saying that if it began on the Earth, it's got to be finished on the Earth. Okay? So, think about that. And again, the Earth is only a portion of the whole, part of it, one of 8. And within them, they are a singular solar cycle of themselves. And it takes numerous lifetimes for us to go through and learn all of those lessons. Okay? It is the cycle of that system being completed that enables us to fully leave behind this system and transit to another system if we so choose. Okay? Question: is it necessary to finish the solar system cycle before going to other systems? Necessary to finish the solar cycle. Now, this does not mean that we cannot go for a visit. For example, if we consider the 8 planets, primary and junior high school grades, you know, some of us may want to go see what high school is all about. We're going to go outside even though we're still attached to the junior high level. We know about high school. We want to maybe go out there and see. Maybe we'll go for a visit. We can do that. But we're not able to fully transform into that next level until everything is satisfied here. Okay? There are centers through which those of one solar system may pass to another, as we have indicated in information for individuals. There are also those experiences in which individual souls may seek a change. Hence, this is where Halaliel perhaps came in. And people were very disgruntled with what they were getting from the level of Cayce, and they didn't understand. There is another way, Halaliel said. Okay, but again, as the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. Ours, to use an analogy, our universe is basically run by Mother Teresa, if you would. Halaliel's, by view of making the way harder, perhaps Patton's in charge. Both very spiritual. They're both going to get to the same place at the end of the day, but the means by which we get there differ. And perhaps this is what is out there in the other universes that exist here. But we can go if we seek a change. Individuals may seek a change. Arcturus is that which may be called the center of this universe, through which individuals pass, and at which period there comes the choice of the individual as to whether it is to return to complete there, that is, in this planetary system, our sun, the Earth, sun and its planetary system, or to pass on to others. Arcturus is, I think, 37 light years away from us. It's been identified by science as the 4th brightest star in the sky. We can actually see Arcturus. But this is the gateway. This is the center of our universe. This is where we have got to, we're staying within the confines. But there comes a period at which the individual may choose to go, or he may choose to finish here. Okay? And when we're starting to think about this, This is where we are going. This is our little playground right now. And if you think about, we can make calculations, but we are yet able to transfer ourselves at the speed of light. Okay? Now, perhaps with respect to other beings, perhaps they are coming through Arcturus. We have a lot of unidentified flying objects, okay? UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, which is science's way of hell if I know what it is, but they're there, and perhaps they in fact can come here, because Cayce said which individuals pass. That word is very interesting, the word individuals. That tells me that there's a possibility that there is physical matter that can actually pass through there. And when we see the dynamics of what we're claiming to be, UFOs and stuff, they move at the blink of an eye. Consequently, it's quite conceivable that they can, in fact, travel light years and with respect to speed, okay? So maybe this is where they're coming from. They'd have to come through here, but do remember, they all came from God. And why are they coming here? Are they bored? Or perhaps there's a lesson. Maybe they're trying to teach us something. A very interesting phenomena happened back in the 60s and 70s. There was an Air Force base in Montana. There was a sighting of a UFO hovering over the place. And at this Air Force base is where a lot of the nuclear warfare, the ICBMs, are stored. And there was reports out there that as those crafts were hovering above it, the entire nuclear armament went dead. They just became inactive, inoperative. They are offline. So that should tell us something. Maybe this is a way of entities from other universes coming over and saying, hey guys, you really don't need this. Maybe there's a better way. And perhaps what they're trying to teach us doesn't mean they're more spiritually elevated than they are. They certainly have cooler toys than we do. But maybe their lessons are a little bit different for them to learn, and maybe they've learned this already. So hey, this is the way. But that was just a very, very interesting tidbit that I found during this research. Can oneness be attained, or the finish of evolution reached on any system, or must it be in a particular one? Depending upon what system the entity has entered, to be sure, it may be completed in any of the many systems. More evidence from Cayce that we are not alone. Okay? Any of the major systems. Now, oneness. And as I was going through this, I struggled with what I perceived to be contradictions in the readings. And as I meditated on it and thought about it, they're talking about a couple of different things simultaneously because the readings are in fact different. Oneness is the end game. Oneness is the end game. Jesus always told us that my Father and I are one. That was the oneness part, completed here on the earth for Jesus, formerly known as Emilius. Okay? Now, when we look at this, we can go elsewhere. But can we finish the entire oneness here? Maybe, maybe it's not. We can if this is where we started from. But we do have free will, and our free will is going to enable us to go elsewhere. Okay? So we're not locked in any way, shape, or form to anything in particular. This gives you an idea of how large Arcturus it truly is. We look at the sun and we're just saying, wow, that thing is huge compared to everything else out there. But look at it in relation to Arcturus. This is a major gateway within us. And we can actually see Arcturus from the Earth by looking at the Big Dipper and following the tail follow it down to the big bright light, and you will find where Arcturus actually exists, where it is. And we're able to see it, albeit 37 light years later. Okay? But we can, in fact, see it. This is a very important planet for us Earthlings. It was given through this source that the entity, Edgar Cayce, after the experience as Yule, went to the system of Arcturus and then returned to Earth. Does this indicate a usual or an unusual step in soul evolution? In true Cayce parlance, this was an unusual step and yet a usual one. Okay, clear as mud, clear as mud. So, the usual step, he went to Arcturus, okay? And the unusual was that he went there and decided to come back. Why would he do that? He had a choice. He came back because of unfinished business. He had the hall pass. He could get out of jail. He was ready to go beyond our Earth solar cycle, an Earth solar system. He pretty much completed everything he needed. But there was things that he wanted to do. His soul had left unfinished, that he wanted to tidy up the loose ends. This tells us what we can in fact do. Now, this is really an interesting one because I have to go back into one of my very first Edgar Cayce study groups, which was online, Search for God, and somehow in the course of discussion it came up to be, if you were ready to go, would you leave and not have to come back? How many of you would leave the earth and never want to come back? And I said, hell yeah, I want to get the hell out of here. Because, you know, it's got to be better elsewhere, right? But then Joanna Van Zet, the lady who was running the show from Belgium, actually, posted a very interesting statement that caused me to rethink this. And what she said basically is that if we are here to help other people, would we leave them behind? Would we just take the money and run? Or, understanding the principle that our souls are forever, would we perhaps be willing to come back and lend a helping hand to try to get somebody to the next step before we left? And this was very impactful for me because it caused me to think twice about this. And you know, I had a cousin that I was very close to who committed suicide. So I know she already booked her ticket, man. She's coming back. She's going to come back and she's going to have to meet whatever it was that caused her to jump ship. Maybe I want to be here to help her. Maybe my soul feels compelled to come back and in some way, shape, or form be something that she can rely on to help her not do the same thing again. You see? And we all have these types of things, but after that discussion, I actually changed my stance on just wanting to, you know, get out of here and not come back. You know, I think we can make compelling reasons. Of course, what we know in our conscious minds today differs from what we'll know when we get to the other side and make that soulful type of decision. But again, it comes back into cooperation, you know, oneness, knowing thyself, etc., and being able to help somebody. And that's what Cayce did. Cayce came back actually several times after his incarnation as Yule. So he had unfinished business. And when we think about it, was there a benefit to him coming back that we can, in fact, find? And the answer for me is yes, because if he didn't come back, there wouldn't be any Edgar Cayce and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And I can personally attest that, you know, it's my study of the Cayce materials that I think have really helped me as a person and hopefully as a soul. Okay? So, thank you, Edgar, for coming back and taking one for the team. This is a life reading for a lady, and she said that the entity was among the priestesses of the Mayan experience. It was just before that period when those as from the east had come, and there were the beginnings of the unfoldments of the understanding that there were other portions of the same land, or those that were visiting from other worlds or planets. Okay? Cayce specifically said we had visitors. Now, her Mayan experience, just before that period when those had come from the east, this ties back to the Atlantis times, because those Atlanteans understood that Atlantis itself was going to basically implode with the volcanoes, and it went through 3 different sets of destructions. And the halls of records were put into place. One of them was in the area of the Mayans, down in the Yucatan area. And so this tells me that depending on which eruption, this could have been anywhere from 22 to 60,000 BC. Okay, is when this actually occurred, because this is when the people left Atlantis. They left in droves on both occasions. Now, again, being in the Yucatan, perhaps they were unaware of things outside their little world. Again, BC, they didn't perhaps have the full awareness that we have today. But now they started to understand this and starting to see this, and they started to really grasp it. But this is a very strong piece of evidence from the Cayce readings that there are in fact other worlds or planets that people in fact can come here and inhabit. Okay? Question to Cayce during the conference. Gertrude asked, "It has been given through the source that souls become entangled in cosmic systems similar to the solar system, where conditions are like those presented in this system." Edgar responded, "Yes, we have the implications that have been indicated through these channels as to how souls may be entangled in systems or influences similar in nature to human experience in matter." Very interesting. Now, we always talk about how we're here and why our souls are here and how we can't leave and stuff. And the term that is often used, albeit incorrectly, is entrapment. Our souls are entrapped on this earth. And this is another revelation I had when I was meditating on these things, is that our souls are entangled. Now, I know a little bit about entanglement. All right, I'm studying entanglements now. But what does entanglement infer? If you are tangled into something, you can untangle it. But if you are trapped, you cannot untrap. Okay? Other than Mighty Mouse, every other mouse that's had a mousetrap go off on it suffered the fate. There was no way out of it. And I came to believe that this was a very, very hopeful word. Because if our souls are only entangled, then that leaves the avenue for us to untangle, to get out. Whereas if we're trapped, there is no getting out. See, so I found that to be very, very, very enlightening, at least in my little pea brain. So what they're saying is that we are not alone. There are other souls elsewhere that are entangled, similar to how we are. So we're all down here and trying to figure out, well, how did we get here and what are we going to do to get out? But to me, hope is so, so important. And that one word, entanglement, is a very hopeful word, because that implies that there is a way out. And God created a way out for us to get out of here. So, yes, we are stuck in here. Our souls are in this system, and there are other souls elsewhere that too are tangled out there. But they're all trying to untangle. They all shall untangle, and they shall all achieve oneness. Just not today. In systems where conditions for expression parallel those in the solar system, is entanglement a parallel experience to entanglement in this system, so that a soul is apt only to become immersed in one of these systems, and after working out of it, be immune to the attractions of others? In other words, after we untangle ourselves from this experience, is that a get out of jail free card elsewhere? And the answer is no. No two leaves of a tree are the same. No two blades of grass are the same. No two systems have the same awareness. Neither are they parallel. So we don't have parallel universes per se, but there are other universes that are out there that are going to require people achieve a certain degree of awareness. We are looking at certain degrees of awareness here. Patience, loving kindness, service to others, cooperation. These are the types of things that we are working on here. Perhaps other systems have those areas mastered, but are working on something else. We just don't know. But everybody is working out there trying to get themselves back. There are those awarenesses that are relative relationships, yes. But hast thou conceived, or canst thou conceive, the requirements of the influence to meet all the idiosyncrasies of a single soul? How many systems would it require? In thyself we find oft one friend for this, another for that, another for this relationship, another for the prop, another to arouse. Yet all are the work of his hand, are thine to possess, thine to use as one with him. So if you ever think about, just how diverse humanity is, realize too that we're just a small speck in the big scope of things. And there is an entire massive universe out there, each with various different things. And one of the things that I often do on my walk is that I walk down a walking trail that parallels a state highway. And in the mornings, there's quite a bit of traffic because it's a very busy thoroughfare. And I often think, I say, well, gee, just look at how many different kinds of vehicles there are, how many people are in the vehicles. They each have their own desires, their own wants, their own needs, their own achievements, their own problems, their own worries, their own loves. They have got a multitude of things going on, and that's just for one person. And no two people are going to be the same with respect to all of the same things. When we take it and we bring it on a grander scale, it's totally mind-boggling of how many things are going to be out there. Hence, how are we going to meet the idiosyncrasy of just a single soul, much less an infinite number of souls? It's really, really cool thing to think about. Do these other systems have a planet like Earth, which is a focal point for the meeting and material expression of its forces and principles? Answer: relatively so, in that dimension of consciousness or awareness necessary to meet that arousing of the soul to its need, its awareness of the Maker, the Word, the Spirit, and the influence therein answer to that within the individual soul. Other souls are out there. Are there other orcs from orcs and Earths running about? Relatively so, but perhaps in a different way of thinking about it. There's not necessarily, again, no parallel universes. There are meeting places for those who are in similar deals, in similar problems. But think about this. What is it? Their dimension of conscious awareness, necessary to meet the arousing of the soul to its maker. What is it that we're all trying to do? We are all trying to attain oneness. We here have our own sets of problems here on the earth. Other souls elsewhere have their entrapments and their entanglements and everything that they are trying to work their way through. But if we all recognize that we're all working towards the same thing, then there's really no difference between us. Only the physical manifestations are different, but that's the vehicles by which we are trying to go through. Okay, so when we see little green men with cool toys show up, understand that they too are perhaps just curious as we are, but they, in the big scope of things, are still trying to get back to what they perceive to be God. Man may become, with the people of the universe, ruler of any of the various spheres through which the soul passes in its experiences. This comes out of the 281 readings back when they were examining the book of Revelation, 281:16. And with the people of the universe, man, and this actually took me a while to kind of work my way through. And man is our physical beings. With the people of the universe, perhaps their physical beings, each with a soul attached. And my thoughts about what this truly means was answered in Genesis. And it says, "And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." Fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over. Maybe the people of the universe have their worlds, that they too are going to do the same things that we are. And when I think about how often history tends to repeat itself, I have no doubt that other people, other systems are going through the same things that we are. We are all trying to get back to it. And we all have our means. We have our environment for which we have to learn to master. And because in the mastering, then it's going to bring us up to a higher degree of awareness, of consciousness. And then maybe we can go out through the gates of Arcturus into other areas and perhaps be a helpmeet to them as well. I leave you with this. These you may find in the indication that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The same. Without him, there was not anything made that was made. Thus, in the answers, we may find that though there may be worlds, many universes, even much as to solar systems, greater than our own, that we enjoy in the present, this earthly experience on this earth is a mere speck when considered even with our own solar system. Yet the soul of the man, thy soul, encompasses all in this solar system or in others. Know thyself. We are all one. Humans have trouble figuring out 5 different colors of people running around, a multitude of languages, traditions, customs, cultures. We don't, if somebody was to pop up that was totally foreign to anything that we've seen before, this is our safety net. They too are searching for oneness. Perhaps they're here to help us. Perhaps we can be of assistance to them. But they too have their origins in God. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas, and God help us if 2021 ain't any better.